A Supreme Court decision could soon change the future for thousands of immigrants here in Georgia. The case centers on temporary protected status, or TPS, for people from Haiti and Syria. The Trump administration says TPS is temporary and should end when conditions change. Advocates warn ending it now could strip legal work permits from families and workers, including some in Georgia's healthcare industry. So what happens next? Joining us now is Hussein Elbakri, an attorney with the International Refugee Assistance Program. So let's jump right into it. What exactly is temporary protected status, and what does it allow someone to do here in the U.S.?
Thanks, Aisha. Temporary protected status is a program created by Congress to protect people from being deported to countries in crisis. So for years, it's allowed people from countries like Haiti and Syria to live and work legally in the United States and really build their lives here. But now the Trump administration has tried to strip those protections away.
And so the administration's central argument here is that TPS is, by design, temporary, right? But why is it that legitimate point in this debate currently?
Yeah, so the issue is that the temporary protected status is supposed to be about the crisis conditions in the country that these people are coming from. And what the administration hasn't done here is actually do any analysis of those countries and look at what the conditions are like. So in Syria, there's still an ongoing conflict coming out of the civil war that was raging there for a long time. And so these people are being deported to places that are just fundamentally unsafe. You know, if you look at the State Department's website, it tells Americans who may be traveling to Syria, don't do that, and if you do, create a will. So even the administration itself agrees that these are not places that are safe to be in, and yet it wants to deport people there.
So that's kind of the central point of the argument, right? That they are still in crisis should they return there. What happens to someone practically if TPS ends? Is it immediate deportation, loss of work authorization, or something more complicated than that?
So temporary work authorization would end if the administration is allowed to end TPS for these folks, and it would also lead to them potentially being able to be detained by the administration and then deported to these countries. The timeline for that depends on which country, but in general, there are more than 1.3 million people who have TPS status, including over 50,000 in Georgia alone. And so these are folks who are integrated into the community, who are going to be in a state of instability and crisis as they try to figure out what to do next if the administration is allowed to take away their TPS status.
But critics here say that the program can become like a backdoor to long-term residency without Congress ever creating that pathway. So do you think that criticism is fair?
I don't think that's fair. So TPS holders, they're revetted every 18 months. They lose their TPS status if they commit a felony. These are people who are deeply integrated into our communities. And importantly, they have to have been here before the TPS cutoff date in order to qualify to be in TPS status. And so this really isn't about creating sort of a backdoor, as you put it, but really it's about making sure that people who have nowhere else to go are able to take advantage of what America's promised, which is that if you need refuge, we will provide it to you until conditions improve in your country of origin.
And so what do you see happening depending on either way the court decides?
Yeah, so we're really hoping that the court will side with us and rule based on what the law is and what Congress has decided, which is that conditions in the country of origin are really the deciding factor about whether TPS status should be removed, and the administration really just hasn't looked into that. If that's not the case, then we would look to Congress to make sure that it can provide protections to TPS holders and make sure that these vital, crucial healthcare workers, construction workers, hospitality workers are able to stay in the United States and take advantage of the program that they've been promised access to.
All right, Hussein Elbakri, thank you so much for joining us to give your expertise on this very important subject.